Welcome to the Hilarity Ensues podcast, hosted by Donna, the queen of quick wit, and Jeff, the dean of devious double entendres. Together, they're on a mission to find the funny in life using nothing but their critical thinking skills and sarcasm.
Hello again, and welcome back to Hilarity Ensues, another great podcast. Get ready for it. My name is Jeff, and my co-host.
It's Donna. Donna's in the house here.
Thank you much. Trying something new. Sorry for the herky-jerky, but we're going to have a nice discussion about Lake Lanier and also Tulsa and a few other things. Nice chipper topics to cover. We might throw in some few things that get us laughing and giggling as well. But we just stumbled upon this recently. We just wanted to talk about it. And of course, we want to hear from you what your thoughts are on these beautiful topics. So, Donna, you're the one who found it. Where do you want to start?
Well, I've been hearing about Lake Lanier for like years. For those of you that don't know, Lake Lanier is a town. It's located in Georgia. It's in Forsyth County, which is a relatively affluent area of Georgia. And it was a town until they decided to add some kind of drainage system in that ended up flooding the town out. A lot of people died. There's burial grounds underneath there. So it's rumored that the ancestors talk and they don't like what's going on, because you're always hearing these stories about people drowning in the lake. And I think the reason why I brought it up the other day to you is because there was a story in the news. This man was on a fishing boat and the bolts from his chair came loose and he fell into the lake. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, how did the bolts from his boat, from the chair in his boat, come loose and he fall over? And
Wow.
They had to send equipment down to state the obvious, which was that he was dead. I just don't understand it, why people consistently test the ancestors and go swimming in there, go boating in there. And from what I understand, that lake draws in around, I want to say maybe, is it 5 million?
It is a
No,
ton.
actually 5 billion. I stand correct. 5 billion annually in revenue for their economy. So
that is crazy. I was going to ask you if that boat was made by Boeing. By the way, I'm not feeling depressed, just to let you know.
And only a select few will understand that statement and the humor behind it. But no, we know you're not depressed, Jeff. So if you come up missing, there's foul play there.
Yeah, for sure. But back to the ancestors from Oscarville. That was the original town, right?
Yes, it was.
Flourishing Black community back in the day.
Back in the day.
Home ownership, farming,
Mm-hmm.
industry, and some haters just had to hate, didn't they?
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
There's so many stories like this, and I admittedly haven't heard of Lake Lanier until recently. But that's very interesting how the turnaround happened after the flooding.
And actually it's not that far off. This happened in the 1950s. So it's not like this is 200 years ago. This is what, 50, 75 years ago?
Right.
Not in my lifetime, well, in our lifetimes, but it happened recently. And so I just don't understand it. Why this continues to happen. I don't get it. And you mentioned, who was it that you mentioned that whose son died?
Usher's stepson. I did not know that until recently either.
Yeah, and when you mentioned it, I looked at it, and even his stepson's mother has a petition going to drain that lake. And I really don't think Georgia wants to do that because of what they might find.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of horror down there, I'm sure.
A lot of horror down there. People talk about people in organized crime going to the Everglades to drop bodies. I have a feeling they're going to Lake Lanier, which is not a far drive, to drop bodies.
Exactly. There's so many bodies there, they just get mixed in with the others.
So I don't understand it. But just another account of history. I'm at a loss for words. Just
Oh, retribution, except for Usher's, stepson, of course. Unless the ancestors got confused on that one, but it does seem odd to have that many weird, strange, inexplicable deaths. One, even though the lake is gigantic too, that might be a factor as well. Just the number of people out there.
well, it's
But it's
38,000. It's 38,000 square miles. No, I'm sorry. It's 38,000 acres.
acres. Okay, that's pretty
So,
big.
that's pretty big.
That's what she
But
said
yeah,
when she got to the lake to
yeah,
go
that's what she
swimming.
got to the lake. Yeah, that was.
Yes.
But there's like all these random stories. People driving across a bridge, car tips over, everyone in the car falls in, drowns. It's like no one survives this. So I don't understand how Georgia's economy is thriving off of this when people must understand the risk in going swimming or kayaking or boating or whatever they do on that lake. Or it's just, another amusement park ride that people are on for the thrill seeking adventure.
Right. Some people like to live dangerously.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people though.
I'll stand from a distance and admire the beauty.
You know what? I won't even go from a distance because I don't there've been lightning strikes at that lake.
Oh, really?
People struck by lightning. I'm not going anywhere near this. I'm not sticking my pinky toe in that water. I'm not going on that sacred ground for lightning to strike me or a tree to somehow fall over randomly and crush me. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like something like a trailer from one of those bad movies from late '90s or 2000, and I'm gonna have to look it up because I can't remember it. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a movie where you escape. You're not supposed to escape fate, and even if you do, it'll come up and get you anyway.
It's a horror movie. I don't do horror movies. You know
Oh,
that,
okay. All right.
Jeff.
It was comical how the way they died, but it was crazy and creepy.
You know what?
Final Destination. That's what it is. Final Destination.
I was thinking the Wayans brothers. I think the Wayans brothers need to do a scary movie or whatever number they're
Right.
on right now
Yeah. They're
on
pretty
Lake
close.
Lanier.
It wasn't quite that silly, but it was campy. It was, I guess, kind of scary, but it's just things killing you. It's not like a monster or anything like that. But it just reminds me of when I read the stories on Lake Lanier, just the way some of the people died. I was like, this sounds like Final Destination, like 2 Electric Boogaloo, just like the next level of it.
Well, it's another story in our history where African Americans got the short end of the stick and have not gotten any
Reparations?
reparations. There we go. Gotten any reparations, which leads me to Tulsa.
Oh yeah.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. In the news recently, there's
Again.
yeah, there's some survivors that are around 100 and something years old that are still living that just lost a suit seeking reparations. And according to the way our forefathers wrote laws, there's nothing in place or no legal precedent or no law that allows them to grant them reparations for
Yeah.
what they lost during that massacre.
And that was Black Wall Street, right?
That was Black Wall Street. There were business owners there, homeowners there. That's when African Americans all, like, they talk about it now, how, in certain communities, like in the Jewish community, that dollar overturns like X amount of times, Asian community, X amount of times, Hispanic community, X amount of times. And all of those times are greater than 10 and as high as probably 85, 90. But in the African American community today, it barely turns twice.
Right.
But Black Wall Street was a time where that dollar was turning close to 100%, 100 times.
That's impressive.
And dry cleaners, bankers, grocers, you name it, all within that community, and it was burnt to the ground.
It sounded pretty horrific. I saw over 300 died and 800 injured.
Then there's so many towns, in Florida, right where you're at, Rosewood, another massacre that took place, all because of a lie told.
Same one. Yeah, all 3 of them had that same setup, the virtue of Goldilocks. It may or may not, something may or may not have happened, but they just go on the word and they just start killing people over one person doing something. What does the rest of the town have to do with that?
Nope. That's the playbook that we've been running for the past 200 plus years. Is
Yep.
we could
Don't
do
even
this?
look that way.
Yeah.
As a black man, only if you see her walking, you put your head down and keep it moving.
And you know what? Across the street, Emmett Till. But you know what? We're not going to depress people anymore. But it's something that we wanted to kind of make you aware of. And it's something that we strongly encourage you to do your own research. Research Lake Lanier in Georgia. Research Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. Research Rosewood in Florida. A lot of these things with laws that are being passed are moving from our history book because they don't want you to know about it. This is a way to erase history. It never happened. So if we don't talk about it, if we don't write about it, it never existed. Speaking of burning some stuff to the ground here, I'm going to shift gears. We're going to go on. We're going to get a little lighter. And I purposely didn't have this conversation with you, Jeff, ahead of time because I kind of know how you're going to respond. And it's
okay.
But I, like Jeff, we don't do cable. At least last year. You still don't do cable, right?
No cable since like 07.
Yeah, so we don't do cable, but we live in an age where you have to have an internet service provider.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When I moved out here to Long Beach 2 years ago, I won't say the name of the provider. I will not give them the satisfaction of saying this. I got a provider and they were quoting me a rate. And T-Mobile at the time was offering internet for your home. They were sending me mailers. But the long short of it is T-Mobile was sending me those mailers, but it wasn't available in my area.
Brilliant.
But this service provider did not know that. So I called them up, and the rate that T-Mobile was offering was like $49 a month or something like that. I said, I'm not paying $80 for internet. T-Mobile's offering me this. If you could offer me this, I'll take it. She said, I can get it to you for $44.95. Okay? 2 years ago, $44.95. I'm like, okay, I'm in there every month. And I said, that's with tax and everything? Yes. Every month, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And it was around a few months ago, something happened. And the person I spoke to suggested I receive a paper bill in the mail because I wasn't receiving it by mail. I was getting it electronically. But I think that customer service rep knew how they were about to screw me and said, let me look out for her and help her to prepare for this.
Oh, boy.
So I open my bill that comes and I notice the bill is $61.99.
It's a big difference.
No, and here's the thing is they have all these promotional discounts that they've thrown in of $50. So if they didn't throw in those promotional discounts, my bill would have been $112.
Damn.
So I'm like, how do we go from from $44.95 to $62? So for those of you listening out there, this is maturity. This is maturity. I called up, young girl answers the phone. I say, why is my bill? Was there a change? Long and short of it, yes, there was an increase. I said, okay, we can cancel my service. She seemed like perplexed. She's like, you want to cancel this? I said, yeah. I said, I'm not paying that. I said to her, I'm sure you're used to a lot of people calling up and yelling at you for something you have absolutely no control over. I'm not that person. You have competition. I'll just go someplace else.
Yeah, simple as that. Nothing personal.
I did, and I think I kind of freaked her out. She was like, okay. She was like, well, let me, let me see some. So she has me on mute, silence, whatever, for the longest time. And she comes back and she's like, well, we could drop it down to $56.99. I'm like, that's great. You can still cancel it.
Yes, I'm looking for 44.95.
But here's the gangster in me. I have another line in here. And while she had me on mute, I called their competition on speakerphone on the other phone.
Nice.
And let her hear that I was calling somebody else. And then I put her on mute. So she couldn't hear. So she probably was like, she's talking to them. So all of a sudden, she's like, Miss P there? I said, yeah. Took her off mute. She's like, I put in a request in, because that was the other thing. They weren't going to adjust my bill for that. So they wanted me to pay it. And
with no warning, nothing, just $44.95 to $61.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I'm not going to pay that. I'll cancel it. So she comes back and she's like, we'll go ahead and we'll make a one-time adjustment, and they they dropped it down to 46.95, right? I said, okay, you're gonna raise me $2. Okay, I'll rock with that for now.
Right.
So she's like, yeah, this is a one-time adjustment. They only do this once every 12 months. I'm like, young lady. Now this is when you know you're old, when you're calling people young lady. I'm like, young lady. I said, if you look at my account, you'll see I pay my bill every month. There's no adjustments that I asked to be made. So unless you plan on raising this rate again on me, there'll be no other adjustments. But you said this is good for 12 months. So I have 12 months to create an exit plan to go on to one of your competition. But thank you.
Yes, indeed.
So
That's good. What do you get with those? Because I haven't had cable in so long. I know it's super expensive to get quote unquote everything, but if you're like a sports guy like me and you're paying for the NFL package, NBA, and
yo,
everything else, it's
hey,
ridiculous.
this wasn't even cable. This is just internet service.
This is just internet. Oh, that
Just,
doesn't even count.
yes, just internet service. I don't
Just
have cable,
internet.
just internet.
Yeah,
But yeah,
crazy.
so and as I'm sitting, I thought about years past Direct TV. You and Direct
Mm,
TV
yes, I had some direct TV. Man, I won't say I yelled. Most of mine was
in
it was
written.
over the email.
Hmm.
But it would make me so mad. I'm like, why am I getting this mad? But one, if anybody's ever had direct TV, if there's a cloud in the sky, it goes out completely. And they just shrug their shoulders like, yeah, well, you got satellite, deal with it. I'm like, I'm paying good money. I forgot what it was a long time ago, but it was probably
It was over
what
$100
was
because I remember
yeah,
you
100.
got
It
that
was
fight packet. You got that fight package.
right. Yeah, I had all the stuff. So and when you think about it, compared to now, it was good. But back then, it was a little pricey.
Hmm.
And it kept happening over and over again. First, it was an hour. Then the cloud would be gone, and so would my satellite. I'm like, yo, what is going on with this? You told me you have all these crazy commercials and how great it is, and when it worked, it was awesome. But when it didn't, they had every excuse in the book. And then, like what you're talking about, that it would creep up with the bill, like just some random amount. Like, oh, now it's 130. Like, wait a second, it was like 100 and change. Now it's 130. They couldn't explain it. And then I talked to them. They said, oh, one time exception or whatever. We'll take care of this. Like they're doing me a favor. Like you're upcharging me, not building or not giving me any more value. And yeah, it got crazy. So I got tired of the waits. So I started typing emails. I should have kept some of those emails because they were crazy. It started out very civilized at first, but then it just became profanity laced. And it's funny because they were doing robot, response back then. This is like in the early 2000s. And it was just funny how they're like, I see that you were upset. Like it was so ridiculous, the response. And it kind of made me laugh. So then I would just try to make the next email more ridiculous. But yeah, it's a fight with these guys for a while. They had a pretty decent product when it worked. So that's
Hmm.
why I hung in there probably longer than I should. And then I forgot what I went to, what the competition was, but I had to go to something else because it was just living in Florida, especially in the summer. It rains so much. If it's raining, you're not watching, the big fight or the big game or whatever it may be, the show that you're trying to check out. It just wasn't happening. So I
Yeah.
think I went to just regular cable. I really can't remember the cable company, but they were pretty bad too, I'm sure. And yeah, it's just a constant battle, and they just count on people just falling for the okey doke and not checking their bill. That's why a lot of them want you to go paperless. So they're
Yeah.
not looking at the bill. They want to save
Hmm.
money too, but they encourage that because you don't, you just put it on automatic. You just keep paying it. Then you look down one day when you're doing your checkbook or whatever your Excel spreadsheet, and like, wait, wasn't my cable? It was
Hmm.
60. Now it's 197. I might have to look into this.
Yep.
Yeah, the budget ain't budgeting.
The math
Or
ain't mathing.
exactly. That was my new take.
But here's my lesson I want our listeners. And I was going to say this to the young lady, but I was like, she already, I could tell she was struggling. She had someone in her ear because, we come from a call center background, Jeff. So we know when
Mhm.
someone's in your ear and you're trying to talk
You
to
could
someone,
tell.
and you could tell. And they're trying to tell her how to navigate it, and it wasn't working. But when it comes to cell phone, cable, internet, fill in the blank, these are things you have a certain degree of control over. And I kind of look at them like dating. It's not a marriage. It's dating. When you buy a house, that's kind of like marriage. That's a serious commitment, right?
Long-term commitment and
It's a
serious.
long term because there's legalities in there when you do that. But when it's your cell phone, when it's your cable, when it's dating, and you can date for 1 year, you can date for 20 years. Hell, I was reading Tempest Bledsoe from the Cosby Show has been dating Daryl Barr from a different world for 30 years. Heck,
What?
30 years. Dating. It works.
Dating.
Short term, long term. Kind of
Wow.
like cable and internet. We can have
Still
a short term
investigating.
yeah. We have a short term relationship or a long term relationship. But when that relationship no longer serves me, I will end it.
Just like that.
I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to carry on. I'm not going to piss a fit. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm exiting stage left. I'm so glad we had this time together, to quote Carol Burnett, and I'm going to move on.
See you when I see you.
I see you when I see you. So for those of you out there, don't give them your energy like that. See, and while I was serious because I was online with the competitor. And I could have got that same rate from them, probably a little less. So I'm like, it's very easy. I would have gone through some inconvenience for maybe a day or so. Well, I'm good. So exit stage left, end the relationship. That's my parting words of wisdom.
Yeah, move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that serious. Even if, a couple of days of inconvenience, it's not going to kill you. You can do it.
But you seem so shocked that I said Tempest Bledsoe's been dating Daryl for 30 years.
Yeah, I'm very sure. I'm today years old when I found this out. I did not know that.
Yeah, she started dating him when she was like 20. And he's like 10 years older than her.
There's no long-term plan. I mean, there's no plan. Maybe they both said, you know what? We're not going to go through all the legality. No idea.
Marriage isn't for everyone. Not everyone, that's the path they want to enter down. So they've been together for 30 years. They might have gotten married and been divorced after 4. So
exactly.
If obviously it's working for them.
If it ain't broke,
don't fix it.
You know it. Yeah. Did not know that though. That is wow. But yeah, they're like the original Oprah and Stedman. I think they outlasted them, didn't they? It's been 30, right?
Well, they started younger than Oprah and Stedman. That's the difference. They started younger. But I
had a relationship like that. I just thought about that. They finally did break up. They started in the 80s. I can't remember when in the 80s, but it was probably a good close to 40 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, everybody knew him. He'd show up sometimes to the festivities. Sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't. And she'd always, complain about, I'm going to break up. I'm going to do this and that. I mean, literally since I was a kid. To I think last year, I think is when they finally broke up and she kicked him out of the house.
Wow.
He had his own house too, but he moved in with her.
And kept his house.
He kept his house. Yeah, he kept his house going. Yeah, it was a weird relationship. He was a nice guy, but it was just a weird relationship.
There was no commitment there whatsoever, Jeff. None.
No, yeah, they were both players, I'm sure. My aunt will never tell me about her side. Yeah, it's wild just to think about. And we used to call them Oprah, the original Oprah and Stedman, because they were before them. But yeah, I guess she's gonna play a new game. I guess almost 80 now, but I think she still got some game left in her.
Yeah, I'm sure she's looking for another friend with benefits.
Yeah.
Medicare Part B,
Right.
Yeah.
Those kind of benefits. They're a little different now at her age group.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We want to thank everyone for joining us here today.
Thanks for listening again. Make sure you share and subscribe. Share the show with everybody that you know. We're on IG, TikTok, and YouTube.
There we go. See?
Yes.
He's getting it, ladies and gentlemen. He's getting it.
Yes, I'm looking at my notes. Yeah. I'm getting it.
So thanks everyone for joining us. Until next week, same time.
All right, till next time.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Hilarity Ensues. Our fantastic music soundtrack is brought to you by TL Music Productions exclusively for Hilarity Ensues. Be sure to connect with us on social media by following Hilarity Ensues Podcast.